Hello, and welcome to Pod Soft Off, a Lovecraft book club. I'm your host, Todd Beardsley. This is episode 8, the From Beyond discussion podcast, which was pre-recorded in my living room a couple weeks ago. Sorry, we've been on vacation, and I haven't gotten around to putting this out yet, but the wait is over. So here you go. So yeah, this is Pod Soft Off. We're trying something new. We are recording looking at each other. So the sound will be a little bit different from the last few episodes. I won't be able to isolate tracks or edit myself out of stomping all over Claire's jokes. So we'll see how it goes.
I'll just be more assertive this time.
Please, assertive and aggressive.
Yes.
Those are the watchwords of Pod Soft Off.
But not shrill.
Not shrill nor hysterical.
Right.
Well, weirdly, this story has no misogyny, I don't think. There's some
shrillness.
There's some shrillness.
Definitely some.
There was a shrill scream, I think, from the housekeeper.
Yeah.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Right.
So this is the discussion episode from Beyond. And it's about the story From Beyond. So not only is the discussion From Beyond, but the story itself is entitled From Beyond.
The discussion is from our living room.
The discussion is from beyond the garage, where I usually record.
We let you inside today.
It's a little warm. We have like Saharan dust in the air, which I think itself is like I'm pretty sure that's an event in one of the Arkham Horror
Probably, yeah.
games that we play.
Why not? We're hitting all the yeah.
So From Beyond is a story. Does the narrator have a name? I don't believe he does.
No, in the Wikipedia article, which I feel like now I can refer to that since pause. I read the Wikipedia article on I, Claudius, and then listened to some of the episodes of I, Podius, and I was like, oh, they are just reading straight from Wikipedia.
Oh, no.
But they're talking about like how it was filmed and such and such. So I now feel like it's cool.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, iPodius is quite a standard. And also, like, apparently, according to our stats, so this podcast has been running for like 8 weeks now. No one listens to these discussion episodes except for possibly your mother and...
But they only listen to the...
And Eric at one. Yeah, they pretty much only listen to the story readings. There's a significant drop.
Really?
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Huh.
I think this one is much more fun than just reading the stories, because you can get like the read stories from basically anywhere, since almost all of it is like out of copyright.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, From Beyond, what is it about? It is a narrator who has no name, and his buddy Crawford Tillinghast of the Massachusetts Tillinghast.
Good chap.
He's living in Providence, and like Providence there's a couple Providence landmarks mentioned. Benevolent Street, most notably, which is a delightfully named street, which I believe does exist. I'll have to look it up. We took the Lovecraft walking tour when we were in Providence, and I'm positive that we saw Benevolent Street there. So we'll take a look. But Crawford Tillinghast, he has invented a machine. It is an electrical machine. It's important to note. And it's got a bunch of vacuum tubes on it, mentioned. And this machine emits rays, these ethereal rays, that let the operator perceive, according to Tillinghast, the beyond, which is other dimensions, possibly all dimensions. There's like one reference of like where like time and matter are interchangeable and like don't have any real meaning. But anyway, Tillinghast fires up this machine when his friend comes over, because he wrote to his friend. He's like, I'm sorry I yelled at you, whatever it was 2 weeks ago. Please come over and check out this rad machine I have.
If it was a text, we'd be like, you mad, bro? Yo.
Yeah.
That's reference is about like 2 years out of date.
Well, he wants his friend to come over to play Xbox with him.
Right.
But instead of Xbox, it's Plumb the Depths of Dimensionality. And so he comes over and he's like, yeah, check this out. He turns it on. A bunch of crazy stuff ensues. Tillinghast gets more and more unhinged as time goes on. Tillinghast says, aha, I've trapped you because I have these demons that I brought down from the stars and they're going to get you. And then he suffers a stroke and dies.
Oh, that's not right. No.
Why did he want the demons to get his friend?
So
is it just because he's gone mad, basically?
So he's a mad scientist.
I mean, he said, you didn't believe me. Yeah, that's it?
They laughed at me at the university, and I'll show them, kind of. That's his motive. It's his one remaining friend.
He's gone so far around the bend.
And he says, like, well, you didn't give me encouragement when that's what I needed most. So it's really his fault.
Just when I needed you.
Exactly. He was not the wind beneath his wings. One interesting thing about the story is that the story was written in 1920, but it wasn't published until 1934. So that's a pretty long stretch there. Mm-hmm. And I suspect it's gotten rewritten over that time. One of the elements I think that got added late was the vision that the narrator has of the stone temple. The stone of what?
Sorry.
The Stone Temple Pilots. Yes, he had a vision of Stone Temple Pilots and how crucial they are to the Crow soundtrack for some reason. No, it was a stone temple. It's described as having these like pillars that are super tall, and the ground is like kind of dark and wet. And this reminded me of the temple where the adventurer in The Shadow Out of Time ends up. Shadow of Time was published a year after this. But I feel like
it's interesting.
So I feel like not only with this machine can you see, these other dimensions, but you can literally like see through time. And so we know from Shadow Out of Time, which comes later, that Earth was populated by the great race of Yith, both before the time of humans and after the time of humans. They ducked out there in the middle because Cthulhu was around, and they didn't want to deal with Cthulhu. But they had these temples on Earth, and so that's what I think, at least, is what that's about.
So what you're saying, you think that he had written the story and then later on added it because he had it in a second story?
I think he had the draft of, or at least some ideas about Shadow Out of Time. It's like, ooh, I should kind of shoehorn that in here, because I feel like that whole scene.
I mean, surely
is written. It feels like it's written a lot later. I can't put my finger on it, but it feels like the beginning and the end were like original, and then like he kind of crammed in like the visions later when he was a better writer.
Do they have a lot of his? I mean, did he keep drafts of early stuff around?
He did. There are collections of his letters where like he'll have long passages of like, I'm working on this. What do you think? And then he'll have like chunks of it in there.
Yeah. Because I guess that's what people used to do. They didn't have it saved on a
drive.
Yeah, or the cloud. Yeah.
No.
I mean, like they wrote it and then
mailed it.
Yeah.
And then it came up later.
And then
like, oh, hey, remember that thing you told me? Yeah, and that has come up before. I think it's either the Tomb or the Tree, one of those, where like he had a story about these two guys. Anyway, like he had a story, but like a friend of his had a similar story. It's like, okay, well, tell you what, you publish your thing. I'll hang on to my thing for a few years and then I'll publish it later.
Got it.
So there is some, there is like a slow race there.
That was either really nice of him.
Yeah.
Or it was like, let's see how well yours does.
And maybe I'll punch up mine.
Yeah, exactly.
So another thing about this story that occurred to me, and I know you usually come up with the gobsmacking alternative theories.
Yeah, I don't have that for this one.
You do not.
Mostly because you did make me. Well, you didn't make me. We watched the Jeffrey Combs.
Yes. Stuart Gordon directed movie, and all I can do is just picture Jeffrey Combs in this, like in both roles. Yeah, I mean the From Beyond movie is definitely an alternate reading. Mm-hmm. A lot more mid-'80s fetish fashion.
Yeah, that was bizarre. But I mean, just
it's way sexual.
Well, like picture like Jeffrey Combs doing everything, like his reactions, his meeting,
He is a national treasure. Well, here's my alternative thinking on From Beyond. So, knowing that it was written in 1920, I believe that Lovecraft, who was like, he wasn't really a germaphobe, but he was definitely like a doctorphobe. He didn't like doctors at all. I think that the From Beyond, like the things that the characters see in From Beyond are microscopic, are germs. It is the invisible things that are around us all the time. And he is coming right off of the 1918 pandemic, which of course, lasted, more than a year. But the world is like fresh off of this thing. That's like
interesting.
And reading it now, this became obvious to me this time around because we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Right. Or it's just like, remember being a kid and the first time you realized, like you saw in a science magazine or whatever, like the dust mites are on everything.
Yeah.
And they had them
and they're monsters.
Like magnified. And like
tardigrades are crazy looking. But yeah, dust mites with their like crazy, like giant maws.
Skin
and they're on everything. Yeah. And so I think I posit that while Tillinghast believes that he's seeing other dimensions, he's actually getting microscopic vision. And he can just see microscopic things on a macro scale. That kind of blows my whole, like, the temple time traveling story out of the water. But that could be something else, right? That could just be like the structure of, anything, somebody's clothes,
Just to say, yeah, I mean, yeah.
So that's my read of From Beyond.
Now I feel itchy.
And hopefully you too are feeling itchy, listener. Through the prism of pandemic, I think From Beyond takes on that.
Interesting.
That kind of thing. And also, too, like, the whole story is, so, like, this is real peak Lovecraft, even though he wrote it in 1920. This whole notion of, like, we have these men of science and they're doing science things and, oh my God, they've discovered something they shouldn't know. That is, like, for me, like, one of the core tenets of Lovecraftism.
Very much. I mean, I assume must have been a big Mary Shelley fan.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
Reanimator is
a
pastiche of Frankenstein, basically.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not. I don't know. We haven't read it yet, and I haven't read it recently.
Sure.
But shooting through a lot of Lovecraft, and this one I think encapsulates it perfectly, is the folly of science that to learn is to be corrupted, and it's almost like an anti-science kind of thing where it's like we bumble around and like we have our limited senses and we can't possibly like appreciate the cosmos with our feeble senses.
Right.
And other creatures out there probably have better senses or more senses or different senses, which is true. Like, that like chickens can see in the ultraviolet spectrum for some reason. So can bees. And they're seeing all these like whack crazy colors that we can't see at all. And they're just like living their lives. So I think that like this idea that like learning is fraught.
Okay, yeah. Now this is interesting because so he does say these things should be left to the frigid and impersonal investigator, for they offer two equally tragic alternatives to the man of feeling and action. So,
either you will fail at learning something and then you'll despair, or you'll succeed and you'll be terrified.
Cold and impersonal. Yeah. So I don't know that he's necessarily anti-science, maybe, but more just like
leave science to the scientists.
They should have said the poet. So beautiful.
Yes, I don't know.
They should not have sent a poet.
Whatever
you do not send a poet.
I just remember, like, when I saw that movie, thinking it was, what was I, high school or maybe a little bit later than that? Thinking it was amazing. And I'm just thinking, that might be a movie that the kids would enjoy. They're young enough to still be odd.
Yeah, kids build a radio.
Yeah. I like this. And I will say that, like, I mean, this absolutely, I was like, oh, this is kind of what Phantasm is about. Phantasm was about this.
Yes, it is. if you had the choice to watch From Beyond or Phantasm, Phantasm is much closer to this than From Beyond is. Phantasm is probably one of the purest Lovecraftian movies around because it doesn't make a ton of sense. It has the pacing of a dream. Yeah. There's like weird monsters that are just unexplained, and bad stuff happens to you when you find out things about the universe.
Having learned more about Lovecraft, mostly from playing the Arkham Horror game, it's just like, shit's gonna go wrong. Like that's
that is the theme.
It made me understand. Watching Phantasm and thinking, and Phantasms
2 through 6,
yes,
or whatever
exactly.
it is.
I'm thinking like, this doesn't make any sense. Like there's no point. And that's the thing. Is there's no point. It's just there are horrors that exist that have no point. There's no relation to us.
If they pay attention to you, you're in deep trouble. Most of the time, though, they're just like, these horrors are happy just moving along their own arcs.
Yeah, doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Just, exactly. I guess I would imagine it would be like if an ant, ants are going about their daily business and like we're going about our daily business. But if we notice one particular ant, we're going to squash it.
Right.
But we're not.
We don't go out of our way.
We don't go out of our way to squash the ants, but if it is right there, if I happen to take notice of it, I'm going to squash it.
Well, great.
We're horrors.
We are the horrors.
Yeah.
Yes. Trying to think of other things. I like that the narrator just happens to have a gun. That is a very Lovecraft board game, card game, role-playing game kind of element. It's like, and also he has a gun. And I also like that Lovecraft seems almost like apologetic about it. He's like, well, like he writes the line that he pulls the revolver and he's like, well, why would this guy bring a gun to his friend's house?
Right.
Oh, well, because he was robbed and he just carries his gun all the time. The cops pick him up. Oh, well, yeah, okay. Well, here's some justice talk that maybe we can get into. I don't know. Let's see where it goes. But the cops pick him up because he shoots the gun after Tillinghast tells him, it's like, I've got these demons, they're going to come get you. Har, har, har. He shoots the gun, and we're led to believe that he kills Tillinghast, but he doesn't. He shoots the machine.
Yeah.
And then Tillinghast suffers an apoplexy, which is just a stroke. Epilepsy. Apoplexy. I can't say it.
No, that's a hard word.
He suffers an apoplexy. I assume it's because the machine got shut off suddenly and it just like jolted, and he was like so used to it, like it jolted him out. And that's what caused the heart attack or whatever.
Or he was just reaching a fever pitch.
Or he's a mad scientist. And he's been aged unnaturally through this whole thing, which again, I think is also another time travel thing. Like the reason why he has a beard and he was clean shaved a while ago, because he's been doing some time traveling. Yeah. It's not been long.
Yeah.
He's been doing some time traveling on the side, with this thing. And I think that, so the cops hear it somehow. So like they're on the street, there happen to just be like patrolling, and it's the 1920s, right? So like, they just walk the streets and be Irish or whatever, because that's all the cops. And
just the untouchables.
And they hear this gunshot. They come rushing over. They find the dude dead. They release him after 3 hours. This is another tale, I think, that is being told in the context of a police interrogation.
Yeah.
He goes over like...
He's already been released, though.
He's been released. He did tell the coroner, like, broad strokes what was going on, but he didn't want to tell the coroner too much because they would think he was crazy. And the police are like, whoa, well, obviously he just hypnotized you.
Yes.
And he's like, sure, I'll take it. Yeah. let me go home.
So within 3 hours, they have determined... Like, you can't get an autopsy done in 3 hours. Like
3-hour autopsy.
They determine, nope. No. I mean, I can see how there's no gunshot wound on him.
There's no blood.
I mean, I don't think you're getting released.
And I think
3 hours, you can't even get booked in 3 hours. Well, nowadays.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, why are the cops even around in the first place? Is it because they already suspect Tillinghast because the servants have all disappeared?
That makes sense.
And they disappeared a while ago.
They exist independent of the outside world. They have families and they don't live there.
They go home at the end of the day. The butler even has a name.
That makes sense, yeah.
So I'm thinking the cops.
They all had names, honey.
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, the I don't remember it. I don't have it up in front of me.
No, I know.
Yes, they all have.
Yes, he's the only one named.
Yes.
But
well, the butler's named, and then the housekeeper is also named. Ms. something or other.
Ms. Busybody. Ms. Light Turner on.
Ms. Light Turner on when I specifically told you not to turn the lights on.
It's the woman again.
It's her own fault. If she didn't want to get consumed, she should have been dressed that way. And she wasn't, because the clothes were left behind. But yeah, so I think the cops are on a stakeout. They're hanging out outside the house. They're waiting for something to come up. They see this guy come up. They're like, ooh, somebody just went in. Let's find out what happened. And then, gunshot less than an hour later. It's like, well, here we go. Pop on in. Probable cause.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's captured the attention of the constabulary already.
Yeah, I think you're right. For sure, I like that.
And that's why they're so eager to put this whole thing away. It's like, oh, heart attack, probably hypnotized you.
Yeah.
Case closed. And we can also close all of these other cases.
He hasn't done anything wrong. So therefore they can write off like, oh, he was hypnotized, I mean, if he had actually shot him, I don't think they would have.
Well, they might have got him off. Who knows, If he had accidentally shot him instead. Yeah. I mean, this might have gone another way for the narrator, but probably not. Because this guy, as far as they're concerned, this is their guy,
So let's clarify something. So the jellyfish things were not what got the servants. Things we don't see.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like these jellyfish guys, these like flabby oozy things. They eat each other all the time. But Tillinghast says, oh, no, those things are harmless. There are much worse things out here. He's positing that he was in the middle of some like demon-y thing, and he's got great power now and all that because maybe he's making deals again with the time. Like, who knows what he's been up to for the last 10 weeks. Yeah. But then the maid turned on the lights, and then she got eaten up by one of these like awful demons. One of these things that will actually disintegrate you.
Yeah.
Which, according to him, also, by the way, is not painful. You just like cease to exist. So who knows like what it is? You know, it might be like phaser set on disintegrate, and you're dead like in under a second. So it doesn't really like you're dead before you know it.
Yeah.
But there are demons out there, according to him. Which again, maybe well, the Yithians don't seem to like be real concerned with like killing people.
Just call them pets.
Yeah.
My pets. Yeah, this is very histrionic. I mean, it's fun, but it's.
He gets more and more unhinged. Tillinghast does, like as he's describing things.
He goes full Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
Before Jeffrey Combs existed.
Mm-hmm. Case closed. This is why all the servants are gone. This is why Tillinghast had a sudden stroke, and I guess that's it.
What prevents me from believing the doctor? This is one simple fact, that the police never found the bodies of those servants whom they say Rawford Tillinghast murdered.
Yep. But he knows, narrator knows. Narrator knows there's something up here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
There's no other explanation that the creatures from beyond.
The macroviruses.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Oh, it was fun.
It's good. I like it too. This is another like pretty short story. I'm working up my confidence to read like a longer one, and I'm wondering if I should split it up into 2 parts or something like that, because like this is right about the range where it starts getting a little bit too long, I guess. To read it all in one sitting, maybe. I don't know. Like this one, I read this in about, I think the last podcast was like 18 minutes long or something like that.
How long would the next longer one be?
Like the next class of length really is twice this.
Yeah.
So that's a solid half an hour and change, like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So it might take me a couple times. Maybe I'll release it all.
Is your concern that people don't want to listen for that long, or that you don't want to read?
I don't know if I want to listen that long.
In terms of editing and.
Well, I mean, editing is hard. Well, whatever. I mean, work is work, but I'm worried that it is too long for someone to fit into like I like podcasts that are 20 to 30 minutes long. I think that's a good sweet spot. It used to be like you'd time against like people's, commute to work. Yeah. We don't have that anymore. So, and no one has this anymore. Podcasts. No.
But that's me.
I will give a longer one a shot. You know what? I'll do it right now. I'll commit right now to read Shadow Out of Time, which is one of the best ones in my opinion. It is often considered a novella. Yeah. It's fairly long. It might end up being a 50-minute read or something like that. If it ends up being too long, I'll just cut it in two.
Yeah.
But I'll get through it. And it's a great one. And it's got the Great Race of Yith. Who doesn't love the Great Race of Yith? They're the Great Race.
Of Yith.
Of Yith. I mean, if you want to talk about racists, those Yithians, why they take the cake?
Well, if they call themselves the Great Race, that's
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's it. I'm going to pre-record the intro, but we'll just do the outro right now. And so this has been Pod Sotha, a Lovecraft book club, with me, your host, Todd Beardsley, and also Claire Reynolds.
Oh.
Well, I never know if you're going to jump in. Let's do that again. And also
Claire Reynolds, Esquire.
And if you want to talk to us, it's very easy to do. You can either follow us on Twitter @PodSotha, or you can write to us over the email at hideous@podsotha.club. If you do write to us, and we do end up reading your thing, please make sure to give some pronunciation guidance on how to say your name. And that's it. Have a hideous night.
Should we start making up letters from people that we can email that we can read?
Yes. Yes, we should. Oh no, we're still recording. Our conspiracy is blown.